Hello and welcome to photographytv.com. Now during this episode of How'd You Get That Shot, we're going to have some fun with some flying kids. And so the whole point of How'd You Get This Shot is to take you from start to finish on one photo. Whether it's a fun shot, an interesting shot, or something different. And this one right here, you can see it. We're going to show you how to get this picture and make your kids fly. Really fun for the kids. Great time. And we're going to take you from start to finish on how to pull that off. So the way we're going to do that, we're going to talk you through the setup first. What goes into it, what type of gear, what you should be thinking about really in setting the shot up. Second, you'll actually see me take the picture, pull it together, and then third, really go into the photo editing system, which is key for this one and making the kids fly in Photoshop, and show you how to make this all come together. So let's go ahead and talk you through the setup first. So as you think about the setup, really the first thing to be thinking about is the location. So here I picked a very simple location, but a wide open field because I want these kids flying. I want a grand, wide perspective in the shot. So I just came to a really open field, not a lot in the background, not a lot in the foreground, because the real main point of this shot is going to be the flying kids. So location is going to be key, just an open, simple field. Next thing you want to be thinking about is, well, what gear might you need? So obviously a camera is going to be important, but here from a lens perspective, I went with a wide angle lens, a 14 millimeter lens. You know, any wide angle lens, whether it's 24 millimeters or anything like that, should suffice. And so having that wide angle lens is going to give us that grand perspective where they can really have a lot of room in their flight, so to speak. And then the only other gear you really need is a tripod. And from a camera setup perspective, what you want to start with is set the camera to multi-burst. Because multi-burst is going to allow, when Jesse hits the shutter button, for it to take multiple images. Because you're going to see me, I'm going to be tossing the kids up in the air. There are going to be multiple images. That way I can really find the one that captured the best versus trying to just capture one shot. So multi-burst is going to be key. So as you think about setting up this shot, what's going to be important as you have the tripod is that when you're with the kids, you make them fly and then they push the button and you capture them in flight. Now don't worry about I'll be in the shot, but that's where Photoshop's going to come in later, is I'll be able to remove it. And so as you watch me do this, what you're going to see is I'll be in the frame, I'll be throwing the kids up, just having some fun, trying to get them in different perspectives and different flights. And so I'll have 3 different images as the kids flying. Now what's really important as you really start this off is you got to capture a shot of just the blank scene. With no kids, with no flying, because that's going to be your base layer in Photoshop. You want to have that base scene down, which I've just done here to show you, so that way when I bring the kids in and I have them flying, I need to remove myself from this image, which you'll see in Photoshop. I need that base layer to kind of set the stage and really have everything fall back into that. And so now let's go ahead and get started and show you what it looks like to start capturing this image and start pulling it all together. So let's start with Haley. Haley will be a good one to start with.
Yeah.
1, 2. I think you got it. All right, let's do a quick look.
My turn.
Okay, that is good. Haley, I want to do one more with you though. I want to get you facing the camera.
Okay.
Okay.
Like to what?
Okay, you ready? You dancing? Come here, show me. You dancing? All right, we got a little distractions going on. All right, now that we've got Haley, let's bring another one of the kids in, and let's go Shaylin next. So what I'm going to do with Shaylin, she's younger, she's a little bit lighter, so I can toss her a little higher in the air, and honestly, she loves being tossed in the air. So I'm going to take her a little bit further back in the scene because I want different perspectives and different depths in the flying shot just to really bring it all to life. And so same thing I did with Haley, I'm just going to toss her up in the air. We're going to do multi-burst, take a few different images as it's going, and then that way in the end I can have a few different shots to choose from as I really want to bring this shot together. All right, third kid coming in, so here comes Ethan. He's my bigger one, so I'm going to have a little bit tougher time throwing him up in the air, but I'm still going to try. He'll probably be a little bit lower flying in the shot because obviously I just can't throw him as high. He weighs a little bit more, but we're still going to do the same thing. Again, get to a different perspective in the shot and just really make him fly, do that multi-burst, capture the scene, same thing that I've done here before. So now that I've captured all three of the kids flying, I've got different angles, different shots, so I can try to see which one's going to work the best. Now what I'm going to do in Photoshop is start to bring it all together. All right, so we're back home now. We've downloaded all the images. I put them into Lightroom really just to catalog them first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look through the images really to try to find the pictures that I'm looking for to bring into Photoshop and really make the kids fly. So let me just go through a few of them. I'm not going to take you through every shot. As you know, we did the multi-burst. We took a lot of different images, but I'm going to take you through a few and really show you what I'm looking for. All right, so here's the first image. This is what I call the base layer. This is where I just took the shot on the tripod, nobody in it, really just trying to capture that base layer because in Photoshop, I need this base layer. So if I'm removing certain things, I've always got the shot with nobody in it, which is going to be really the bottom layer in the image. Now going through a few others, here's one of Haley. Now obviously her hand's blocking her face. It's not a great image, not one that I'd want to use, but I want to put this in here to show you what I'm looking for, because if you look at it, what's really important, let's just say if I were able to see her face, maybe it was the perfect pose, a problem with this image, regardless of that, is look at myself. So my hands are blocking her legs. So if I go into Photoshop and I need to remove my hands, essentially I'd be removing that part of her leg as well because her leg is not in the image, my hand was, and I ultimately need to remove that. So what you're looking for is not only the kid's face to make sure that you can see it, and it's a good pose by Haley in this case, but you also need to look at, in my case, myself, and how can I easily remove myself so I'm not going to take any body pieces away from the image. Let's go to the next one. This is a perfect example, and this is definitely a picture that I'm going to use. Her face is up, her hands are in a great place, so clearly this is a great image for her flying, but look at me. I'm not blocking her, I'm not in the shot in any way, assuming once I remove myself, I'm not going to be blocking her or taking body parts away from her when you remove myself. So this is exactly what I'm looking for. Let's go through a few others. Here's one of Shaylin. This is absolutely a keeper. She's looking right at the camera, arms are wide out, flying. I'm not blocking her. I got pretty close there with my thumbs, but I'm not blocking her in any way. This is definitely going to be a keeper. So as you're out in the field getting the shots, look through the images before you stop and make sure that you're not blocking them, you're not in the way. That's going to make it very easy to remove yourself in Photoshop. And so here's a few again of Shay that were good poses, but you can see I'm blocking her leg. So if I were to remove myself, I'm essentially taking that part of her leg out as well. Another one here, I actually really like that pose by Shaylin, but it's absolutely not a keeper because my arms are clearly blocking a lot of her body. All right, last one, here's Ethan, another one that clearly is not gonna work. I'm right in his way because the number one goal is I gotta make sure I catch the kids, right? No matter what, I gotta catch the kids. I'll do multiple shots just to make sure I can get one that I'm out of it. But number one, I gotta catch the kids. So this one's definitely not a keeper. This one is gonna be a keeper, but it's gonna have challenges. So I'm not blocking him in any way, meaning once you remove me, I'm not taking away any part of his body. He's in front of me in every element of the shot. But unlike the one of Shaylin and Haley, where I'm not anywhere in the shot, I can easily remove myself. The tricky one about this one is I'm directly behind him. So yes, I can remove myself, but it is going to require a little bit more effort as opposed to just where I'm not even near them or in the shot. That's a lot easier. So in hindsight, if I were critiquing myself out there in the field, I wish I would have had a little bit different angle on this, not even been behind Ethan, obviously not blocking him either, but this will make it a little bit more difficult, but you'll see how I work through it, get a real small brush out to really take myself out of it. But it's really a great angle. He's close to the shot, he's looking right at it, so it is still gonna be a really good shot. So now that I've gone through them, I've shown you what to look for, not only the kid's expression, their look, but also where you are, if you're the one that threw them, in the image so that you can easily remove yourself, not take away any part of their bodies or anything like that. And that's going to be an absolute key when setting this up. So now that we've done that, let's take a look here at the 4 images that are going to be the keepers to bring into Photoshop to get this started. I've got the base layer, I've got Haley flying, I'm out of the shot, I've got Shaylin flying, and then Ethan. These are going to be the 4 layers in Photoshop that we're going to use to make the kids fly and ultimately take me out of the image so that the only thing remaining is the kids flying. So now what we're going to do, we're going to open up Photoshop and bring these 4 images in as different layers, and we're going to show you how to remove yourself, or remove me in this instant, and make the kids fly. So let's go ahead and pull up Photoshop and get that started. And here's a quick thought around Photoshop. So I use Adobe Photoshop, the Creative Cloud. Great thing about the Creative Cloud is it gives me Lightroom and Photoshop for a really reasonable price. I think I pay $10 a month or something like that. So if you don't have that, I highly recommend it, because I use Lightroom probably 95% of the time, but when I want to do fun little things like this, or add text to an image, things like that, that's where I do need Photoshop. So I think the Creative Cloud is a really great way to get it. Now, another thought about Photoshop is, I'll be honest, I'm relatively intimidated by Photoshop. There's so much you can do, so much that I haven't even learned yet in Photoshop. But what I love about this technique and making the kids fly, this is a very simple thing to do in Photoshop. So hopefully you'll see easy ways to bring this to life. But it's something easy to get started in Photoshop. Again, I'm not an expert in Photoshop by any stretch. I'm a lot more comfortable in Lightroom, but this will be some fun things you can do in Photoshop to really get started. So let's go ahead and go and File, Open. And so I'm going to bring in the images that I want to use for this picture, those 4 images that I brought in earlier. And the first thing I'm going to do is bring in the base layer. So I'm going to go ahead and open the base layer. And so once this comes up, this is Camera Raw, because these were the raw images. I'm not going to process them here. I'll do that ultimately in Lightroom when I finish the editing of it here. So I'm just going to go ahead and open the image. And now I've got my base layer in place. So what I'm going to do is just bring each of the kids in one at a time, work on getting them to be flying without me in the image, and then we'll piece them all together and show you how the layers fit on top of each other as we go. And so I'll talk you through what I'm doing. I'll fast forward a little bit where you see me doing really this fine-tuning edits, but let's go ahead and dive into it. So I'm going to first bring in one of the first kids. I'll start with Haley and show you really simply how to remove myself from the image and make Haley fly. So the way to add another layer is simply go in here and go File and Place Embedded. What that's doing is bringing the other image in right on top of the other. So now I'm going to bring Haley in. I click Place. Again, Camera Raw is going to come up. I'm fine. I don't need to make any adjustments. And I'm going to go ahead and place the file. So I just put it directly on top. I didn't move it in any way. And now I need to create that layer so I can brush myself out of it. So I've got the layer, but now I need to put a mask on it so I can actually reveal or hide certain things, which is exactly what I want to do. So very simple. You just need to learn this technique. What you do is you go Layer, and then come down here to Layer Mask. And in this case, you have 2 options. You could make everything in the layer on top revealed, so it would see exactly what you're seeing on the screen now, or you can hide it all and then with a brush reveal certain pieces. And that's actually what I want to do. I want to hide it all, and I just want to come in and brush Haley into the image as opposed to brushing myself out. It's actually works a little bit better for this particular image. So I'm going to hide all. And what you can see is now we disappeared. What I want you to do, look on the right hand side and you can see here's the layer, but you see this black screen. This is showing you that everything in that layer right now is hidden. And so what we need to do is paint in Haley and bring her back in from that layer, but leave myself out of it or leave myself hidden. And so by black, it means everything in that layer is hidden. So I actually want to paint in some white, which will actually reveal what's in that layer. And so you can see what you're painting with, or I'm going to use the brush. Black, I would actually be hiding. If you hit the X key, it'll switch between white and black. So I'm going to use the X key a lot as either I'm revealing something in the layer or needing to hide something in the layer. Right now I need to reveal Haley, so I'm starting in white. And so I'm going to go over here. Now what I'm looking for is the brush tool, because I'm just going to brush Haley into the image. I click brush tool, and then what I do is I want to start with a relatively bigger size brush. So I went here at the top and went to the size, and I'm just going to start with, let's say, 150 or so. And so once I've got that size brush, what I'm doing is I'm coming in and I'm looking for Haley. Now one way that I've found is really easy to do this is I actually want to hide the background layer and make everything transparent behind Haley. And so what I'm doing is now I'm just looking for Haley. There she is. And I'm just painting her in. So I just hold down the click button and paint Haley into the image. And this is revealing her because, again, I'm on white. And so as I'm revealing her, I'll even reveal myself a little bit so you can see I'm there. So I'm revealing Haley. Now that I've got her revealed, I'm going to hit the X key again and watch my color shift from white to black. Now it's black because I don't actually want myself in this image. So because it's black, now I'm hiding what's on that layer. And I'm going to hide Haley again, or hide myself, I'm sorry. I'm going to hide myself and just try to get as close to Haley as I can with this painting. And so now I'm just going to clean up the edges a little bit here. And now that I've gotten pretty close to the edges, I'm just going to zoom in, which I can zoom in there and just get as close to her as possible. And again, what I'm trying to do is just show as little of the background as possible and just get Haley in there as much as I can. I'm actually going to, now that I've got zoomed in, I'm going to go ahead and bring down a smaller brush, so change the brush size a little bit closer. That way I can just try to get, well, you can see with these dots behind is this is the transparency where ultimately when I put that base layer in, that's what will show. Now because it's sky behind her, it's not critical that I get right up next to her because ultimately it's going to be the sky in all of the images. But the sky changed colors a little bit. Obviously the light changed, so it might be a little bit lighter, a little bit darker. So I want to get it as transparent as possible outside of Haley, which is what I'm doing by basically just hiding this part of the image, which is why I'm on the color black. And you can see I'm just building the transparency back into it. So let me just go ahead and clean this up now. Okay, I've gone all around Haley with the brush. Now let's just say I had made a mistake and I removed her leg or something like that. Again, that's where switching the colors, hitting the X key, there I'm taking away from this particular layer. White, I'd be adding it back. So if I had just gone in and removed her leg, I'd go back to white and I can easily just brush it right back into the frame. And you can see now her leg is back, which is obviously a good thing. So now that I've got her pretty much brought into the image, painted around her as close as possible, I'm now gonna click on the background layer and you can bring the background back into it. So by doing that, now let me zoom back out. Essentially, I've just painted Haley into the image. I have not brought myself in. That's the benefit of the layer. Now I've got one of the three kids flying. All right, so now that we've got Haley flying, let's start working on Shaylin. I'll go a little bit quicker on this one because you've seen it done once, but I'll still talk you through a few things. So I'm going to go back to File, Place Embedded, because I want to bring that layer right on top of it. And so here's the one of Shaylin. I'm going to go ahead and place that. Place it on the image. And then what I'm going to do now is uncheck the bottom two so that way the only layer that's going to be showing, other than when I have the transparency behind it, is the top layer, which is what I want to work on now. So if you remember, the next step is going to go to Layer, Layer Mask, and again, I want to hide it. So you can see by hiding everything, it's all black here on the image, but everything behind it is now transparent. So I could bring in the background image, you can see that, but for now I'm going to keep it as transparent. So now what I need to do is actually find Shaylin. And again, I'm going to use the brush to do that. I've got the brush now selected. Again, I'm going to start when I'm just revealing her for the first time with a pretty big brush. The exact size doesn't matter, but I've got that. Now I want to make sure I've got the white selected, which I do, which will reveal everything in that layer that I'm working on. So now I'm just looking for Shaylin. All right, perfect. There she is. I'm just going to paint her in as much as I can. No reason to paint myself in. Oh, looks like I did a little. So I'm going to hit X, hide myself. There we go. And back to white, hit X again. Now I've got Shaylin in the image. So I'm just going to try to clean up as much as I can around her so I don't have a lot of extra in the scene. And I'm going to zoom in and go to a slightly smaller brush here. And just try to get as close to her as I can. Looks like I might have cut a little bit of her finger off, so let me just bring that back in. There we go. Back to white to reveal. I might have, see if I cut her head off by mistake. Bring that back. So again, I'm just toggling between white and black, whether I want to paint it away or paint it into the image. Very simple once you get the hang of that and how you're revealing or hiding something within the layers. So now I've got Shaylin all selected within the image. That's the only thing in this layer that is showing, which is what this is showing us, is Shaylin flying. Everything else in this layer is hidden. So now I'm going to add Haley's layer in. But look at that. I've got kind of an issue here, which I'll show you how to deal with, is that in the frame, they're layered, but they're actually, when I threw them up in the image, I must have thrown them pretty close to the same spot, so they're now crossing over. And if I bring the background image, that's great, but that's kind of a problem that they're floating over each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back to just Shaylin, and I'm going to work on moving her. So if you come up here to this tool, I'm going to grab it and just move her over. So that way I'm getting her out of the same shot of where Haley was. Let me bring Haley back in to make sure. Okay, now we're good. So again, I can really move her wherever I want. Easy to do in this image because the sky was really bland. It was very open at that day. So it's not like I'm moving a cloud or anything behind her. It was very simple. I'm actually just moving her around just because I had them overlapped in the shot, which I didn't mean to. So let me just check the background layer and bring them back in. So now you can see I've got two of the kids flying. In fact, I may move Shaylin around just a little bit more. So the same thing that I did there before. And I can actually make her fly wherever I want. That's kind of fun in and of itself. But I want to make her a little bit higher in this scene and just move her over. So there we go. In fact, I may even move Haley over slightly. I don't think I'm going to lose anything by doing that. Move Haley over just a little bit. And there we go. So now I've got two of the three flying. Now it's just time to bring Ethan in. So we'll go about the same process. So let's go ahead and bring Ethan in. Place embedded. Here's Ethan in the last shot. Go ahead and place that just as normal. All right, so now we've got Ethan's layer in here. As you know, what I need to do next is go ahead and do the layer mask. And I'm going to hide all, then just paint him into it. So now you can see everything behind it. So again, I'm just going to remove that so that I'm only worried about this layer in particular and trying to make sure I can really hone in just on Ethan and getting myself removed from the image. So let me go to the brush, make sure I'm on white to reveal it. And again, I'm going to start with a little bit bigger brush here so I can really easily find Ethan and bring him into the image. So here he comes. Just painting over Ethan. All right, so now I've got Ethan brought into the image, but as I mentioned, I'm behind Ethan, so it's gonna be a little bit trickier to get myself removed. I'm gonna basically go in with a really small brush and paint myself out of it. So I'm just gonna zoom in on the shot here so I can get as close to this as I can, and I'm gonna change the brush size. I'm gonna start here by first going down to maybe 50 or so. You can change it to any brush size that you want. But now what I need to do, instead of revealing, I'm gonna hit X again, go to the black, and I'm going to try to remove myself as best that I can. So I'm going to have to do this a couple times, and I'm going to change brush sizes throughout. So I'm not going to have you watch every single brush stroke that I do here, but just know I'm going to go around this a couple of times and try to remove myself as best as I can. I'm starting with the brush size at 50, but you're actually going to see me go down to smaller and smaller brush sizes as I get really close to his arms or back behind his head, really to just remove myself as best as I can using smaller brushes along the way. So I'm gonna fast forward this so you can see me brushing around, but that's exactly what I'm trying to do, is just remove myself from the image as best as I can and keep Ethan as the only person in the image. And you can watch as I move my brush around. I'll change the different brush sizes, trying to get as close to Ethan's body and remove myself as I can, and just so the only person left in it is Ethan. So let me get to brushing, and you can watch as I go around. I'll fast forward it to keep it as efficient as possible. right, so now I've gone through and removed as much as I could of myself from Ethan. And so you saw me painting around, doing different size brushes. Again, that was a little bit more painful because I was behind Ethan. In hindsight, I wish I would have just taken it in a different angle where I could have been not behind him, obviously not blocking him. It would have been a lot easier to remove myself, as you saw with Haley and Shaylin's image. But now that I've got everything removed from all three of the images, let's take a look at what the final image is going to look like and bring all the layers back into place. All right, so there you have it. Now you've got all three kids flying in Photoshop. You've got the different layers, the background. Clearly they're flying, they're having a good time. Now I'm just gonna save this image in Photoshop. I'm quickly gonna open it up into Lightroom, make a few final touches, and then I've got the finished product. So as I go to File, I'm obviously gonna save this. I'm gonna save the PSD, which is the Photoshop, the layers, the different files. So if I ever wanna come back to this, I can. So let me save that. Then I'm also just gonna save it as a TIFF, because when I go into Lightroom, I wanna save this as a TIFF, because it's just going to give me a lot of editing capabilities to put those final touches on it and really make it the final image that I'm looking to print or use in the final version. All right, so now that I got it in Lightroom, I'm just going to make a few very minor adjustments in the Develop module. I'm going to go to Basic, Get Started, just check my color temperature. Kind of like it where it was. I might just adjust it slightly. Overall, exposure looks pretty good. Maybe just tweak that up a hair. Definitely add a little bit of contrast. And then bring the highlights down if I can, because it was a really dull day in the sky, which helped with removing the kids, but overall, see if I can bring the shadows up just a little bit. Whites, I definitely want to add the whites, and then try to bring down the blacks a little bit to add a little bit more detail in the blacks. So I'm just going to make a few minor adjustments to the basic module, just a few tweaks here and there just to make the colors pop a little bit more and make minor adjustments. Go to tone curve. I'm just going to add a small little S curve to it. I always like the look that that gives. And I'm going to go to the color, specifically the luminance. I found in really dull skies, if you can bring the blue down, it will help pull a little bit out if it can. And lastly, I may add a little bit of blue to the highlights to try to bring some blue into the sky. So there we go. Again, made just a few minor adjustments to Lightroom. You can see the before and you can see the after. Now we'll put up the full screen image there.
All right. So there you have it. We've taken you from start to finish on this image. And so the point of this is, how'd you get that shot? I showed you the setup that needed to go into it, the gear that you needed, the way to capture the picture and just have some fun while doing it. And then third, how to bring it to life and put it all together in Photoshop. So you end up with this finished product of kids flying in the air, just a fun, different shot. Kids have a blast making it. I had a great time showing you how to do it. So now get out there, capture life, and just have fun making this type of shot or anything else you can do with this type of setup.
Thanks for watching this video on photographytv.com. As a next step, I encourage you to check out this free ebook on taking better pictures, and I'll give you 10 tips on capturing the best images of your life. So click this, submit your email, and get this free ebook and join our newsletter. Thanks for watching this video on photographytv.com.